Okay, I'm just going to be honest here for a moment. I've had like a dozen different water-related issues in any of the places I've lived, and I don't want to risk another one trying to set up a bidit. Also, Ethan, what the fuck? To open up this conversation, I would like to talk about two popular games from the MMO genre that are still played to this day, World of Warcraft and old school RuneScape. In both of these MMOs, the primary source of monetization for these games is their membership systems that paygate content from players unless they pay a regularly incurring fee to access the game and its content. In the more recent years of both of these games, players have been offered an alternative in the form of the WoW token and the OSRS bond. Both of these items are only available by spending real money to attain them, but then can be traded amongst other players, as when used, they will give a player a set amount of membership time to the account it was used on. For all intents and purposes, both of these items are a developer-sanctioned form of real-world trading, something that is typically against both games' terms of service, as it's considered to be problematic for the in-game economy. Let's be clear, these are just as bad, but the developers won't complain because they set the prices and pocket the cash for themselves. A player buys a token or bond with the intent to sell it for a high amount of in-game gold to skip the process of acquiring said gold themselves, which they can then use for their own purposes. The person buying the token or bond with in-game gold is provided an option to unlock membership for their account without spending money, and ideally would need to spend time during their membership taking advantage of certain members-only activities in order to build up enough gold to buy another token or bond before their current one expires. Rinse and repeat. Aside from the aforementioned problem of creating a real money trading economy that has a negative ripple effect across the entire game, there is another problem it presents. A player's time investment into World of Warcraft or RuneScape is itemized and quantified at all times, and there is effectively a dollar to time amount put in with what they are currently doing at any point in the game. Activities with a low gold yield are considered not worth the time to do, and is considered dead content. Playing for fun is compromised, as now everything needs to be optimized to meet the demands of this real money and subscription upkeep trade dynamic. With this in mind, I want to now turn the conversation to the actual topic of discussion: how gacha games quantify your time investment in them and make you determine the value of doing something based on what you can yield out of it that supersedes your own personal enjoyment. Gacha games, when you look at their reward systems and incentive mechanisms, are effectively no different from the Skinner box experiment, an enclosed environment where a subject is tested on their ability to respond to positive or negative stimuli, as well as adjustments made to said stimuli and the subject's response to the adjustments. When first starting a gacha game, as well as during the first few hours of a patch for a new game version, players are given a wealth of resources and premium currency in bursts with relatively short gaps in time in between. This overstimulation of easy and immediate rewards psychologically alters a player's expectations of what they want out of future interactions with the game to meet the same standards of what they have been treated to up until that point. Once all straightforward sources of sought-after rewards have dried up, most players will only ever interact with the game by doing dailies and spending stamina for a drip feed of rewards and materials respectively for account progression. That's not to say they have nothing to do, as all of these games have some form of achievement systems, collection logs for major permanent game modes, and maybe a unique activity or two. But given the slower progression of these activities, smaller reward quantities, or even the quality of the content itself, most will either throw in the towel early or never even work towards clearing any of these to begin with. This is oftentimes where the phrase meaningful content is thrown around a lot within gacha discussions in regards to players whom are bored with any given game. Keyword here, meaningful. Generally speaking, meaningful content in most cases involves two things. 1. Substantial rewards, premium currency, and resources of a high enough quantity to warrant participation. And 2. Engaging gameplay, typically endgame content or content that focuses on the gacha game's core combat systems, rather than some bloated minigame unrelated to said combat system. Running around an open world you've 100% completed is not considered meaningful to many, as it's backtracking through an area you've picked clean with combat encounters and enemy drops that will do absolutely nothing for most players. And in the unique case of Wuthering Waves' ecosystem, you're only engaging with the world as a glorified farming route to go through and gather echoes that may or may not be of value to you, but you still need to spend stamina on tacit fields for substantial EXP material. So really, all that happened was the gear farming process was broken into two, and one half has been scattered across the entire map. Completing a collection log for the roguelike modes of Honkai Star Rail or Zenless Zone Zero is not meaningful content because you're just running through the same combat scenarios on a lower difficulty until you come across an item or event that you haven't encountered for your collection log. There's way too much downtime between new discoveries, and by extension, no clear or consistent distribution of rewards to players. And none of you installed Genshin Impact to play a card game. Now, to give these gacha games some credit for a moment, this kind of inherent design of content and gameplay works for their intended audience. Casual mobile players whom have little free time to partake in video games, oftentimes only an hour a day, or possibly even less than that. These games were never meant to fulfill the same expectations of your typical live service experiences. If I were to ponder why there is a common opinion of running out of things to do, I would say it's because the last decade of live service gaming, particularly in the West, has trained gamers to expect a steady stream of content or high replay value that matches the asking price from live service monetization systems. But as with many other aspects of gacha games, they do not follow the expectations, guidelines, or business trends of the live service market. This of course includes content offerings. You are given a bulk amount of permanent content to complete at your own pace, with smaller supplementary content to complete within a given time frame. You complete it, and then you wait for the next big drop of content while logging in daily for account upkeep and to remain in the loop of the gacha ecosystem. It's this very game structure, coupled with gamers' fixation with optimizing everything, that creates this environment where every activity is assigned a value to it, and not meeting a minimum standard results in the content being deemed not worth doing, even if the content in question does have valuable rewards tied to them. And of course, this deliberate design of starving players out will draw them towards spending money either for currency or resources to maintain that flow of positive reinforcement. There's not really a solution I can provide for this kind of thing, as it's so intrinsically tied to the very foundation of gacha game design. But nonetheless, I wanted to explore this psychological alteration of players' expectations and open up a conversation about it. All I can really say is to remind everyone to temper their expectations, know what you're getting yourselves into, and to not put too much faith in getting X, Y, and Z out of a gacha game. And while I've spent the entire video exploring how gacha games change how players look at and quantify elements of their games, it's not an inherently wrong thing to do at all times. These are video games after all, and you should be able to decide what you want to do and what you do not want to do when you are playing them. But just be self-aware of how these games effectively bribe you into doing things you might otherwise not want to do, all with the intent to get your hands on a character whom you believe will elevate your experience of a gacha game to its next level. And with that, I have said all I really wanted to about how gacha games create a mindset in its players of assigning an inherent value to what they are playing. I'm sure some of you might even consider these closing thoughts sections in my videos to be a waste of your time as well, so I won't keep you any longer. This has been Arikado Zodan, and I'm clocking out.